It's the internet, you're busy, so let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything in the world of games so you don't have to think about it yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti.
I don't like to think.
Mike, do a better job.
What? Never. Throwing it to me like I'm supposed to say something. Did I say something? Then you leave me hanging. You're supposed to take it back right away.
You're supposed to introduce yourself in a really cordial way, something that makes people like you instead of what you normally do.
I'm Mike Minotti, and I'm your friend.
That's really good. We also have special guest Bob Gardner. Gardner, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bob. I'm a games dev evangelist at Intel. I'm the inexplicable English guy that lives in California. Yeah, nice to be here.
There's got to be an explanation. You say it's inexplicable, but I bet there's an explanation.
Not one that's interesting.
In today's episode, we're going to go over the week's
He came here for our fantastic healthcare.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, there it is.
Definitely
that's
the
exact. That's perfect. Yes. This week we're going to go over the news. We're also going to preview Microsoft's showing at E3. First, though, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I also want to thank our sponsor, Intel. We can't release these episodes without support from them, so we want to thank them. Get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email the podcast at games+podcast@VentureBeat.com. That's the plus sign in there. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can subscribe to the podcast, the audio version, on Google Play, Stitcher. I messed up because it says iTunes, and I keep forgetting iTunes isn't real. I need to change that to whatever it's called now.
I don't think they know what it's called.
Yeah, so iTunes. You know what? I'm just going to keep saying iTunes because people still call.
When I open on my computer, it's still called iTunes. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I still call it the Sears Tower instead of whatever it's called now in Chicago. Finally, if you like the show, rate us on iTunes. It helps people find it. So, guys, real quick, I want to talk a little bit more about Prey, if you guys don't mind.
Oh, I might.
No, you can knock yourself out.
Yeah.
All right. If Bob thinks it's okay, then if Bob's all right with it, then we can do it, I guess.
So I put a few more hours into it. I don't think I'm very far, but I'm really kind of digging the way that it is a compelling, cohesive one environment. Like the space station feels like it truly exists. Walking around inside of that place, it's by far the best part of that game. Is the way that it feels really like it exists. Like it is a place that people.
It doesn't have a lava level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It feels like a believable environment.
Yeah, and the way you get around that environment is, of course, you're walking from one place to the other. But I really like the way that they did almost like a fast travel system. And you just get the jetpack and you go outside the space station and you do a spacewalk to go from one airlock to the other. And it still takes a little bit of time. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to do outside the space station. A lot of exploration to be done out there. But as you get more powerful, you can handle further deep dives into this exploration outside of the space station to get around more quickly. And I don't know. I really thought that was super smart. I'm still having a hard time, really just diving into it because, like I explained last week, I'm a huge coward, and it is very intense. It's very a lot of jump scares. The monsters still scare me, even though I know they're just little shadowy things. But I'm trying to get over that because it is very good. Again, like I said last week, Mike, have you put any time into Prey?
No,
or are you still on
I haven't touched Prey at all because I'm kind of on my new game, which I don't know if you want me to jump into that right now or not. But I'm very much, except for multiplayer games, single player games like that, I take them one at a time. I'm usually not starting multiple things at once.
Let's talk about yours. Yeah, because you're doing Nier Automata. Let's talk about that in a little bit. But
yeah.
Next, let's talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds because I think me and Bob have both been playing that. And Bob, I've talked about it a lot, but I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on the game and where you come from in regards to something like this.
So I don't play a lot of FPSs. I'm just at that point in my life where I'm too old, my mouse sensitivity is too high, and my reflexes are shot. But it's just a really compelling experience, right? From start to finish, it's just one of those games that makes me want to play more. It gets me back in the game quickly, and I can just hide in a building and still somehow not suck. Yeah,
isn't it insane how intense and just heart pounding it is to be waiting in a building and doing nothing else.
So the last game I played, I parachuted on the bottom of the map. There's the military base at the bottom of the map. And I've always been a bit wary about parachuting out of the plane there because I'm like, there's probably good equipment. There's going to be loads of dudes who are good at the game that all jump in there and grab the equipment. And definitely a valid fear because
of course,
I definitely needed to change my underwear after landing in a building, picking up a bunch of gear, hearing a door open next to me and going, oh God, oh God, oh God. Went to turn around a corner, took a shotgun to the belly, instant game over.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's how I am too. I freak out anytime I see anyone else. And I've started to get a little bit more confidence where if I do hear those footsteps, if I do see someone else, I know to like take a breath and actually aim my gun. But most of the time, still like to this, like after, I don't know, 30 games or so, I'm mostly find myself coming around the corner, seeing someone freaking out and just waving the mouse around, hoping to blast them with something while they are perfectly aiming at my face and killing me instantly. Yeah. But it is one of those games where I think most people are never, ever going to win. Most people that play this game, it has 2 million players. Most people are not going to win that chicken dinner. However, it is very fun to still lose. I like you told a really good story. I think there's always a good story to be told from this game. Even when you do fail and fail spectacularly, because it's just like I had one where I was doing really well. I got all my really great equipment. I had like a level 3 helmet and level 3 body armor, and the really good fast shooting shotgun. And I was ready to go into the fray, but I got on my motorcycle and another guy on a motorcycle came up right next to me, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to resolve this situation? I don't know the best way to handle this. And because I was looking over at him and sort of freaking out about that, I did not see that there was a giant, basically like ramp in front of me, and I flew up in the air, flipped upside down, landed on the ground, lost almost all my life, and the guy just shot me instantly and killed me. And I don't know, it was kind of a hilarious thing to experience and watch and see. And I always feel like I come away with that from that game with the story.
It is hilariously unforgiving, and that's why you get these. So I have a standing Overwatch team with like 5 of my other friends, and I'm trying to persuade them all. Yeah, I'm trying to persuade them all to buy. I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm trying to persuade them all to buy PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, so we can play as a group. And I had a bunch of people over mine this weekend. We had a Eurovision party. If you're an American, you've never seen Eurovision, go.
I watched for the first time this year.
Yeah, it is. If the gun show like epitomizes the way the rest of the world views America, I dearly hope Eurovision is what epitomizes the way the rest of the world views Europe.
For people that don't know, real quick, Eurovision's like a huge song competition where each country gets one act, and people like all of the whole continent and Australia apparently all vote on who should on who should win, and you can't vote for your own country. So it seems like there's a lot of cool like political aspects to this, and it's kind of insane. But someone described it in the most perfect way. If you're trying to visualize it, it is like 2 to 3 hours of WrestleMania entrances from each country in Europe.
It is.
I'm like, okay, that's perfect.
Like, it is 24 of the worst musical acts in the history of pop. This
is where ABBA came from. Like ABBA, like yeah, and that's what I really appreciate. I like the really terrible acts. Those are always my favorite. So when people when they seem to be taking it seriously, it was like this year, like the Portugal guy won, and he's like, "Oh, music should be for feelings." I'm like, no, it should be dumb WrestleMania entrances.
You see, my votes. I wasn't sure whether it was was it the big rock band with the big Mechazord in the background? Like that was one option. Option number 2, the lady with the 6 arms. Or option number 3,
yes, that was good.
Horse on a ladder.
Yes, the horse on a ladder. I think Azerbaijan or whatever, that was them.
Something like that. Yeah.
I like my vanilla flavor where it's just the saxophone guy being a weird saxophone guy from Moldova or whatever. Just give me a saxophone guy and I'll be all right.
So for the entire show, we just referred to that guy as Wiggly Sax Guy.
Exactly.
And that was it.
Yeah.
For like 4 hours.
So you had your crew watching Eurovision, and this is your Overwatch crew. Did you convince any of them to pick up Battlegrounds?
I did, and what ended up convincing them is one of my friends played it, like my PC's in the living room. Mm-hmm. One of my friends played it after Eurovision finished. He was the last person to parachute out of the plane because I forgot to tell him how to do that. He landed, and as he landed, a Jeep ran over him. and everyone in the team just broke down into fits of laughter and were just sold.
Yep. Yeah, I got Mike to play, and I think he still would rather just go play Overwatch. But I'm gonna.
Yeah, I like Overwatch a lot, and I still have a slight aversion to early access games, and I'm just like, I feel like in a year or two that game's gonna be done and like super fun, and then I can maybe get into it more. But right now, it's neat.
Dude, actually, that brings me like to a question I had about these kinds of games. Like you hear a lot of times when people are trying to describe this, and they try to gloss over the jank by saying it's really charming, and I feel that way. I feel that way about the game.
Really,
I feel that something about it is charming, and I've heard people describe it that way a million times now, and I'm kind of wondering what that is. Like you don't feel that way at all, Mike, right?
No, I didn't get any charm out of it, and I mean that's Like I understood what it was doing that was interesting, but I didn't think, oh, it's like adorable how the frame rate stutters and how the UI is kind of crappy.
Yeah, no, it's not charming at all. It's a good game, and it will be a better game. You're right, it'll be a better game in a year's time. And I get what you mean with early access. Like I've been burnt by Kickstarter and early access. But I think the core.
To be fair, I've been burned by like full retail games as well. Well, like, yeah. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think the animations, they do feel very much like they were purchased from the Unreal Store and stuff like that. And
That's what I mean,
yeah, and it's I don't know. It
does not bother you at all. That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's not that it doesn't bother me. It's that there's something about it like really scratches an itch I have. Yeah, I don't see.
And I'm weird Eastern European war zones.
Yeah, it's the Eurovision of animations. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. It's something I'm gonna have to think about and really examine about myself, because maybe I'm broken in some way that I need to really.
No, people really obviously agree with you because this game's becoming a big hit. It's just
because we all secretly want to play Hunger Games with machine guns,
right?
Yes, for real. I mean, I think in my deepest, darkest recesses of my heart, that's exactly what I've always wanted. Last one from me. Well, actually, I got two more, but I'm going to kind of lump them together. Minecraft Switch Edition and Creativerse. I was really happy to see Minecraft on Switch. It works really well. It is Minecraft. I still really dig it, but...
it's like the original early access game I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one...
Remember when Minecraft was in like alpha and we were playing it like, oh, this might be a big thing.
Yeah, in like 2009. Jeez. Yeah, and it's like, oh wow, this is this could really work. And now that whole business model is a thing that like millions of people
remember Dwarf Fortress, that it was like kind of a clone of. No one remembers Dwarf Fortress now.
I do remember Dwarf
Fortress and Drunk Cats.
I've never tried it though. I've never had the guts to actually try to figure out the ASCII graphics. Minecraft on Switch though, it's interesting because it works really well with the split screen. I kind of don't really have anyone to play that with split screen, so it doesn't really do too much for me.
So, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I'm out here alone in Colorado. There's no one else in Colorado.
Jeff, it wouldn't matter where you were. No one would want to play with you.
Oh,
but he's right. I don't let people in my home actually. I also tried Creativerse for the first time, though, which is basically a Minecraft clone. And, there's a million of these. But I was really surprised at like how much of a difference a smooth control system can make, where when you're hopping around, sort of doing fast strafe jumps almost with mouse and keyboard, how that can really change the experience. And it just felt like a much more streamlined version of Minecraft, which is not what most people who play Minecraft want. They want the very specific thing that Minecraft is, and I understand that. But for me, as someone who's tried it a bunch of times now, gotten into it a couple of times in a really hardcore way, and is maybe beyond that, seeing that this genre can go somewhere else and be streamlined while still maintaining a lot of the aspects that I really like about it, it was kind of eye-opening. I'm not sure I'm going to go back and play a ton of Creativerse, but like I said, I'm just kind of glad it exists. But I mean, Bob, you said Minecraft. You've been playing that as well. What's your kind of day-to-day Minecraft activity like?
So I play Minecraft with my wife. In fact, as we are recording this, my wife is sat not 30 meters away on our private server.
Wow.
It was the gateway game that got her into gaming. So it has that going for it. But I like I specifically like original Java Minecraft with a bunch of mods, because the thing I like about Minecraft is that you can kind of make it your own game, and not just in the constructing the world that you want sense, right? Like, if you were to play on our server, our Minecraft looks like the love child of Minecraft 1.7.10 and Factorio. So it's just pipes everywhere and machines and computers and just crazy automated services running all around us and like teleporting and other madness. And that's the Minecraft that we play. And I have a great love for the original Minecraft because of the freedom it gives you to make your own game. It's the ultimate modded game, in my opinion.
Yeah, so someone that really likes the modded version, how do you feel about the sort of push towards the Windows 10 version, where Microsoft seems to be wanting to, not necessarily close it off, but they definitely see an opportunity to, have the community build stuff and sell stuff to one another and turn that into a viable business model, which I think is a great idea. But I know that there are a lot of people out there like you that really like modding the original Java version.
I like that they still support the game, which, some people wouldn't. I like that the creators have the opportunity to make a living from their creations. I think that's one of the reasons that Team Fortress 2 is so successful. One of the reasons that so many modded games are so successful is when people can make money doing something to the benefit of everybody else, right? But I really wish they would write a good modding API. Like, if they wrote their own modding API for the Windows 10 version, I think and then officially supported it, like, I think that would be a really big deal, and I think it would probably get quite a lot of uptake. I might be wrong. I'm probably going to get a bunch of hate mail from a bunch of Minecraft mod devs. I'm dearly sorry. I love all the work you do. But I think an official mod API would be amazing, but until there is that, I mean, I'm never going to move on to it.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that feeling. You have one more game on your list. You want to talk about it before we move on to the news?
I mean, Overwatch, which I've already mentioned. I also mentioned. So I spent a bunch of the weekend when I wasn't watching Eurovision, watching Pro Tour Amonkhet.
Okay, so is this a game or what? I recognize two of those words, but just in other context.
So, when we first chatted about this, you told me about gaming, and I maybe took this to a slightly greater degree and thought beyond just video games. I mentioned earlier on that I used to be kind of semi-pro Magic the Gathering player.
Right.
Pro Tour Amonkhet was the pro tour, like literally the professional tournament tour, that was on for Magic the Gathering the weekend just gone. And it was brilliant.
And so, okay, yeah. So, like, what makes a good Magic the Gathering tour, like, or an event to watch, like, any other esports event or a competitive event, like competitive chess or whatever?
It's much longer, which I think is a benefit. Some people don't. And it's
like each match is longer, or like the entire competition is longer.
So both, right? So Pro Tour Amonkhet was 3 days. It was about 12 hours a day. And then it's multiple. It's like 10 to 12 rounds a day, and each round is about an hour. It reminds me. So I used to be more into esports than I am now, and the reason was because I was really into the StarCraft 2 tournaments. And one of the reasons is because I felt like the StarCraft 2 pace made for a more interesting match, like that 45 minutes, slightly slower, rewarded the audience because you could track what was going on and follow the strategy and the tactics, right? And it's kind of the same thing. Like you'll start to recognize the half a dozen or so decks that turn up, and you'll be able to spot what like the key plays are, and well, like any sport, right? You learn to understand it, and because it's moving at that slightly slower pace, I feel like it rewards you more as a viewer. So I tend to like longer games, slightly slower, longer events. And it was great. Like, loads of great decks, some real personalities on camera. There was a couple of technical difficulties.
Did you have to find yourself like rooting for one person in particular, like the underdog or something like that? Or could you just get the enjoyment out of every match just based on the quality of the play?
So the answer's kind of both, right? Like, I've been playing Magic so long that I just really love the game. I have the somewhat controversial opinion that I believe it is the best game, non-video game, ever created, period. Which is controversial.
All those chess fans out there getting upset.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can watch the game and just enjoy the play, but recently they made a change following on from some other esports where they've tried to create more team drama. So there is more teams represented and stuff. And absolutely, I followed Team Channel Fireball Ice. They didn't do very well, sadly. I wish they'd done better. And my favourite player, even though he wasn't on Team Channel Fireball Ice, ended up winning the tournament, which is a guy called Jerry Thompson, who is an amazing Magic Pro. Really deserved the win.
Huh. This might just be me mixing up a bunch of headlines, but was there like a really young competitor at Magic the Gathering this weekend or something like that? Because I feel like there was some like really young math prodigy that competed in either this or maybe it was a Hearthstone tournament that was getting a lot of attention.
I don't remember being mentioned on the Magic Pro Tour.
Fair enough. Well, do you still try to go out, like, last question before we move on to the news, do you still like try to go out and play Magic the Gathering competitively on any level, even like a casually competitive level where you like go to like a local comic book store and play in the back room for 3 hours?
Throw yourself back into for fun, right? With all the evolving formats and new cards.
Yeah, I live spitting distance from Channel Fireball's game center. So absolutely I still play. I don't play anywhere near the level that I used to, but I do still play.
Okay, another question. Do you listen to like 15 different Magic the Gathering podcasts? Because I know that's a very popular genre that a lot of people listen to.
You know, actually, I listen to absolutely none. I listen very occasionally to limited resources. Very occasionally. What I do have is a very long list of YouTube subscriptions.
Okay, yeah. So basically,
that's how I am with Hearthstone. I don't listen to any of the podcasts, but I watch people play on YouTube like every night.
Yeah, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Yeah. Okay, well, Magic's one of those things where I definitely played for a long time ago when I was in a like summer camp in Boy Scouts, and I was like, I gotta
from Pokemon cards.
Yeah, I'm like, I got to channel my money somewhere better than this because I'll lose it all here. And then I did the same thing with Hearthstone, like several years later. But okay, guys, so it's probably time that we move on to the news.
Okay.
First thing, we're gonna jump right into it.
I want everyone to know that we have our list of games we want to talk about. I have my one lonely game on here.
Oh, I totally forgot about. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I totally forgot about you.
On now. Yeah, I know. You guys have like 5 things listed. I got one. So I was like, all right, well, everybody said what they have to say. No, I'll talk about it next week. Now you don't get to hear about it.
I forgot you were even on the podcast, man. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Okay, no, Mike. I want to hear about Nier Automata. I want you to tell me about Nier Automata.
Do you really?
I really, really do, Mike. Please.
All right. Okay.
That's a card in Magic the Gathering, right? Nier Automata. That's what you want to talk about, right?
Exactly.
It's got some sick flavor text. No, yeah. So this is the new Platinum Games game, and I went into this with almost no idea what it would be, except that it's an action game by Platinum Games, and it's like a sequel to a bunch of games that I haven't played. I think a lot of people haven't played, right? So. Like, the first Nier was, like, this game that came out a few years ago. Like, no one played Nier, right?
I know
Yeah.
some people played it and got no. I didn't play it. I heard about the fishy mini game and I was like, I'm going to stay away from that. And that's actually not true. I was going to play it no matter what. But I know a lot of people got super mad because it got a couple of bad reviews where people like really hated the fishy mini game, and everyone got mad at the people who reviewed it and said that because they're like, no one's ever going to play this now. And I think there were bigger issues against that game, like the fact that it's not this super interesting version of like a platinum game.
Right, and then freaking Nier itself was a spin-off of the Drakengard games, which never touched
I barely heard
those.
of. I think I remember seeing like the
No,
cover art for them, but beyond that,
I didn't know that. I'd never played Nier. I still haven't played Nier Automata, but I have played Drakengard, so
Interesting. There you go.
oh wow,
edging myself
all right
slightly.
then.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like it's wacky when you try to like see how the games are related. Like they all take place in like different dimensions after like different endings and like separated by thousands of years. So it doesn't really matter. Like you start Nier Automata, it's practically a new IP. So it's the same like director, that guy that wore that like moon mask. You've probably seen him. And
Yeah,
the
Yoko
difference is
Taro.
this one's Platinum Games, and that's kind of like what I think got people excited about it because they're known for making really good action games. We've been excited because Bayonetta just came to Steam, and stuff like that. So, like the last big thing I played is Persona 5. Like, okay, yeah, I can use like something just kind of fast paced now, and I was kind of surprised that this isn't the kind of Platinum Games trademark game, right? Where you think it's really over the top, kind of jokey, not taking itself very seriously, right? Like this game's taking itself very seriously.
But it doesn't do it in a way that's like downcast and like trodden, right? It's not like some gloomy taking itself seriously. It has
it's
a
pretty
point,
gloomy.
but not like Batman versus Superman. Like it's not like you're not going to come out and be like, man, why like that wasn't fun at all. Like it's
Gloomy in a well done way. I mean, yeah,
Right.
there's characters that you like and attach to. I mean, yeah, there are some humorous things still. Sure, it's likable, but it is a gloomy kind of like the basic plot is that humans were driven away from Earth by aliens who built all these robots. So the humans went to the moon and built their own robots, and now they sent them down to fight the aliens and their robots. And you're like one of the androids that the humans built. So it's like you and these android armies fighting these other robots, and interesting things happen. But yeah, so in like the basic conceit of the game, like gameplay wise, I guess the original Nier was maybe like this too. It's kind of like a shmup meets an action game. And not just like in that literally there are shmup levels and then there are action game levels. And there are a couple shmup levels, but by shmup I mean like, the spaceship shoot 'em up thing.
shoot them up, all right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like even when you're just like doing combos and like your regular action, you have like this gun with you the entire time, and you can aim it and lock onto things and hold down the one button to constantly shoot at things while you're also like parrying and attacking and stuff like that. And like sometimes the camera will go above you, and it's like almost like a twin stick shooter for a little bit, and the enemies are shooting out these bullets, and it's like a bullet hell kind of thing. It's just really interesting how it's kind of crossing some of these genres, and still at the base, very much like an action role-playing game with all like the leveling up and the stuff. And it's an open world game too. There's all these side quests and everything. So yeah, it's just really interesting, the kind of this take on an action game where you're introducing these other elements. The setting is really neat. The writing seems really good. I'm really digging into it right now.
I honestly had like no idea that it was a shmup until you really described it to me.
Right, and it's not a
really
shmup.
surprising.
It's it has like those elements of it in this really interesting way. And like it's definitely, you would definitely recognize it more like something like a Bayonetta than like a Ikaruga, but it's
right. But it's in the gameplay
there.
where you feel the shmup. Okay, have you beaten it at all? Beaten it like at all? Like, 'cause I understand beating it the first time is just the basic. Like you're only scratching the surface, and you really need to play through it 5 times, I guess. And it's very
I know there's multiple endings. No, right now I'm making a pretty big deal about doing as many side missions and stuff as possible. But and I guess that is one thing that the whole series does have in common is these kind of multiple endings where it's not like, oh, there's the best ending or what have you, or the true ending, but all this stuff. But
so asking the question,
it's scratching a good itch right now. It's just fun. It's fun. It's like it's not super fast paced, right? Like it's not a Bayonetta or what have you. It's a little bit more thoughtful than I was expecting, but it's nice.
asking the question on everybody's lips though. Is there a fishing minigame?
There is actually a fishing main game. I was kind of laughing. There's also maybe one of the cruder achievements I've ever seen in a game. Where and I did not see this on my own. It involves her underwear.
Does it involve looking at her butt? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. You look at her butt and she'll eventually like move away in disgust, like she knows what you're doing. You do it enough times, you get a trophy for it. So there's that.
I remember there being something like that in the original Metal Gear Solid as well.
Oh yeah,
there's something like that in
Resident Evil
4. Yeah.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you would look at Meryl's butt and she would yell at you. Wow, Metal Gear Solid, man. They was doing some stuff back then in 1998. It's intense.
Oh god, that was really 1998.
We're still doing it in 2017.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 1 was 1998.
Oh my god, I feel old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we're
all plunging towards its 20-year anniversary. Well, you know, you have to put it that way.
Well, I am going to put it that way because it's horrifying when you just say it like that. 19 years old. Yes. Okay. Well, Mike, have you gotten it out of your system? Have you told us about
Nier? Now that if you're done forgetting about me, yeah, Nier's great. I'm what I'm saying. I like it a lot. You should play it, Jeff. You'll like it, baby.
I trust you. I think it's going to be my next one after I get through with Prey.
It's
but
kind
I am
of
going to cut this part out of the pod. It is okay. Well, I need to finish Horizon first too because I got.
What are you cutting out of the podcast?
Our whole Nier conversation, just because I don't like it. So.
No.
Okay, let's move on to the news. We could jump right in. This is a segue, and it's always a good segue when you point out the fact that it's a segue. Vanquish got announced finally for the PC.
Hey.
Another Platinum Games classic. This is a game I really liked on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 era. I think it came out for both. Lots of sliding around, shooting, cover shooting. It was the Japanese Platinum Games take on that genre. And it was super stylish and cool. Not a very long game, but I really enjoyed what was there. And I cannot wait to play it in 4K on my PC. Like I'm super duper looking forward to that.
I missed this one when it came out, and this is almost kind of what I was expecting Nier to be more like this really in your face, fast paced thing.
Right.
And not that I'm upset Nier isn't that, but I still kind of have that edge. I'm like, oh, I'll play Vanquish. That'll be fun.
I feel a lot less bad now. Yeah. I was literally about to say, I never played it, but then you beat me to the punch, and I feel less bad.
Yeah.
Well, now's your chance to play it. Like that's the whole point. Like Sega's like, hey, we have these games, right? Yeah.
I watched the trailer over the weekend, and the game looks really cool. I'm definitely going to play it. No, it doesn't. It looks. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out brand new like this month.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you could get away. I think you could get away with releasing this game as is, maybe with the few updates they're going to do to make sure it supports modern aspect ratios and 4K and everything like that. But yeah, other than that, like the content, I think is still super edgy, super cool. Sci-fi action that people still don't do a ton of. It doesn't feel out of place coming out in 2017 at all. Moving on, Square Enix withdraws from IO Interactive, negotiating with potential investors. Essentially, the developer that makes Hitman, IO Interactive, made one of the best games last year, at least in my opinion. I really loved Hitman 2016. I love Hitman. It was a special game. Yeah, and Square Enix is basically saying, hey, we're going to sell this developer. Any buyers. It's kind of tragic in a way, for sure, because I think the developer deserved a lot better than what it's getting. That game was special. Maybe it didn't sell. I think that was a byproduct of the experiment of going episodic and going the live gaming route.
Do you think maybe they didn't do a good enough job promoting that game, letting people know? Because I heard from a lot of people that game is special. I feel like one of the people I didn't hear it from was Square Enix.
I mean, there's also another question, though. Right? There is another question, which is just the cost of developing a game versus the size of the audience, right? Like,
oh yeah,
Hitman isn't a game for everyone, but it was no cheaper to make than any other AAA title. And those titles are bigger than a lot of these titles are bigger than movies, right? Like, one goes wrong, and you could take an entire studio down. And
it does feel like that's not necessarily what isn't happening here. Like it feels like a very possible scenario where The game still cost a lot of money to make, even though they were doing this new method of releasing everything a little bit at a time and having these bigger episodes. But it still seemed like a lot of money went into producing a lot of content up front. And I go on Steam and I look around and it doesn't look like I'll see some games like, 17 people own this game. And I'm on my friends list. I think only 3 or 4 people own Hitman. It was still, I'm sure it sold a little bit better on the consoles, but still, I think that's kind of a pretty good barometer for how that game might have performed. And yeah, I just think you're right. I think you're right, Mike, in that Square Enix wasn't quite sure how to push this game out. They knew they were going to do this experiment with the episodic stuff, and maybe they played it a little too conservatively with like saying, let's just see how it goes, instead of having a lot of confidence in what that developer was doing. Which, it's kind of hard to maybe put a lot of money into marketing when you don't know how it's going to turn out. No one knew Hitman was going to be special before it came out.
Well, and sometimes things just don't work out. Especially with a series like Hitman, somebody like me, I just never played Hitman. I'm not interested in it. And, it was kind of hard for me to hear, oh, no, this one is the good one. You need to get into that. It's sometimes hard to make that jump, right? When you have these really established franchises to bring in new people like that. So sometimes there's just, inherent challenges.
And honestly, it is a shame because it probably... I think it stands behind only Overwatch in terms of the game I enjoyed the most in the last year.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I think I was right there with
Absolutely
you. I was right there with you where Overwatch was right there at the top of my list. I like Titanfall 2 was my game of the year last year, but I was really having a hard time like trying to figure out where to put Hitman, because there were times where I had more fun with Hitman than any other game, and it was specifically the way that they made this version of the same idea that they've been doing for a while. And in the end, I was like, yeah, that's probably going to be like number 3 or 4. I think I put it right behind Doom. But yeah, it was I'm not a big Uncharted guy, but it was. I don't know. It's just a game where it's immensely watchable. Like going on YouTube and Twitch and watching people play it, kind of thinking through all the ways you're going to take at these challenges, and really the live gaming like as a service. And I wrote this article on Friday. I posted it, where this is the future of games. Games are going to be made not necessarily episodic. It's going to be new content every week to get people coming back over and over, to stay engaged for long periods of time, because that's how you maximize the value of getting someone to buy a game. Games should cost way more than $60 at this point. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think that it would have just been better if there was a Hitman game that was those first 3 episodes or something, and then they just kind of released the rest as quote unquote DLC?
I not necessarily. I don't think it would have been better for me. Would have performed better. I don't know. I just think it worked because you were getting one episode at a time. You were exploring the hell out of just that Paris level over and over, playing it over and over. Once you got a really good hang of the basic, sort of forgiving main missions and some of the challenges, you would get an elusive target to go and really challenge you and say, hey, if you screw up this time, that's it. You failed and you can't try again. And it flips everything on its head. It's like, okay, so all that stuff that I learned by doing the basic missions, where I was, kind of goofing around and save scumming and, loading up after messing up really badly. I've learned a lot of stuff now about this level, and now I could put that all to use in this really high stakes version of the same idea. It worked better than it had maybe any right to. It was kind of such a successful experiment that, yeah, it's a bummer that it's not going to kind of live on, at least under Square Enix. But we'll see. They're looking for someone to sell it to. We'll see how that works out.
Cross our fingers.
Okay.
Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo. Yes. Nintendo's E3 2017 presentation to happen on June 13th at 9 a.m. They kind of basically said what they're gonna focus on was Mario, in the same way that they focused on Zelda last year. That's what I kind of got from this.
Well, kind of, but they're not they're not making the big deal they did last year. They're it's only Zelda, right?
Right. It's not to the absolute exclusion of everything else. Yes, I think you're right. But to me, what I'm really hoping for is that they do with their booth like they did with Zelda last year and turn it into a giant Super Mario Odyssey world.
I would love that, because that Zelda booth was fantastic.
It was
That
really
is
cool.
like kind of stuff that's the kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, E3 is still great. The heck with you, haters.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I felt the same way. But I am glad that they're like, no, like Mario's out front. Like that gives me a lot of confidence that the game's not going to get delayed. Which I
No,
still
it can't
wasn't
be delayed.
100% on. Yeah, it really can't
just
be. And
couldn't
I
be.
think at this point it doesn't feel like it's going to be. But I mean, beyond that, like, yeah, they'll probably have more stuff in their booth than just Mario, which is another good sign. But not much else to say on that. E3's coming up fast though.
Right?
Like
Man.
a month away. Like it's almost exactly a month away. We're gonna be there in a month. Yeah. Okay.
That is
Most
right.
people have never. Yeah, I know, right? I'm sorry. I don't mean to scare you. I want you to be able to sleep tonight, Bob. I'm sorry. Okay. Most people have never heard of PS4 Pro or Project Scorpio, and most non-gamers have. Most non-gamers have not heard of the Switch. I'm sorry, I wrote that.
How can they not? How have they not heard of a memorable, catchy name like Project Scorpio?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay.
How is anyone surprised by this?
I don't know. I'm kind of right there with you. Like, it's not just that these are a subset of existing hardware where, like, okay, PS4 Pro. I'm sure a lot of people heard PS4. They haven't heard PS4 Pro. That's not surprising, especially for like non-gamers not hearing of Switch. Like, these people aren't really buying consoles anymore. They're buying their iPads, and that's all they need. And they're probably not gonna jump on the console bandwagon in any way like they have in the past with like Xbox 360 getting really cheap on the back end of that console's life cycle. We're like, okay, maybe we'll consider that. And especially like earlier versions where, when the PS2 got to a certain point, everyone was buying one of those because people wanted a way to play games. Now, they're getting their iPads and they don't have to pay attention to the next version of the Xbox One or the next version of the PS4 Pro or even the Nintendo Switch. Like,
I think the elephant in the room.
else.
I think the elephant in the room is the Wii to Wii U transition. Everyone owned a Wii, right? Like just everyone. Like my dad owned a Wii, right? My dad was 65 with a Wii, and I feel like a lot of people got burnt by the Wii,
Yeah.
and it wasn't everything it was cracked up to be. And then when the Wii U came out, that was exasperated, and I feel like the non gamers, not that I think there's a lot of those anymore, don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I feel like you guys are reading a bit too much into this for a kind of a doom and gloom take. I think it's kind of usual for most people to not know about game systems that are like, first off, like these weird iterative things are not even out or whatever, just like the new thing happens to be, right? Like people, not everyone's going to know what a Switch is.
It's not doom and gloom. It's just like recognizing the reality that there's a really hardcore audience of gamers that is huge. Like, look at how well the PlayStation 4 is selling. I just like it's more isolated than it ever has been, where there's not a lot of people who if you want to buy a PS4, and there's not a lot of people who are like, oh, maybe I'll get one eventually. I think most people who want a console have gone out and bought one, and if they haven't yet, it's just because they don't really have interest in playing those kinds of games. And it's not like a console thing. Consoles are dying because the Switch just came out, and I think based on its trajectory so far, it's going to be very similar to the PS4 in terms of sales. So I think we could kind of expect that this core audience of people who play games and buy games is going to be about this size for a long time, and they're going to spend about this amount of money for a long time, and that's going to support a lot of good games. It's just that casual audience that was jumping in on the last half of some previous consoles when a system would get down to $99.99. They're just not going to spend that money anymore. They're just going to stick with their iPads, and that's fine. I think that's totally
fine. I think that's why
playing games.
You have people like Nintendo feeling okay about chasing them on a platform like mobile, because they recognize that these people are going to get a Switch, and it's kind of a waste of time to like. If you want to get these people to buy a Switch, that takes a lot of investment, and then potentially alienates your core audience anyway. So, sure,
that's right. All right, Alan Wake to be removed from digital stores due to expired music licenses. That's happening today. It might have already happened at any moment. Alan Wake's just going to disappear from every digital store on which it is because The publishers only got the rights for the songs that are in it for so long, and I
Now I'm looking. Looking at my library to see if I own Alan Wake or not.
It's worth noting. Sorry.
No, please you go ahead.
It's worth noting that I looked this up because I do own Alan Wake. And if you own it, you won't lose it. You just won't be able to buy it anymore.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Which
they're not going to revoke licenses from people who own it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that would be a way bigger story than what it already is.
Yes.
If you like suddenly it was disappearing from your digital library, that would be nuts. So what this means is that they just can't sell the game anymore. All the physical versions that have already been printed can be sold, resold, whatever. That's going to be fine. It's not going to be on Steam anymore. It's not going to be on.
This is just a byproduct of kind of Alan Wake being made and released in this kind of pre-digital forever store era, right? Where they didn't really think about what's going to happen in like 8 or 10 years when our digital license music goes up, right? Like who cares back then?
Right. Yeah. I think that's the best explanation because it's like you look at the best-selling games on Steam last year. The best-selling games on Steam in 2016 all came out in 2015 or earlier. So clearly, there's like people willing to buy catalog games, as they're called, and I think you're right. Like that, Alan Wake was made in a time when people didn't really think that was a thing. Like I remember the guy that does the GameFly, the guy that runs GameFly, was like, "Oh yeah, it's a lot harder than Netflix because." An old movie's great forever, and people are always going to want to rent old movies, but that's not the same thing with games. And it's like, okay, but that's changing in a big way, and I think it's because of digital and the way digital works. Alan Wake is just a byproduct of a time where they didn't necessarily realize that, and none of us did.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting because it's at least the first time that this has happened, right? Or at least it's the first time I'm aware of.
I feel like there's some other games.
I feel like actually something happened with I feel like there's a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 music licensing like this that happened. I remember something like this happened with something weird before.
Yeah, Activision pulled like Deadpool for a while and then brought it back. I think you're right, but those might be like the character licenses or something.
Yeah. So the reason I mention it is just because a lot of the kind of anti-Steam, anti-iTunes kind of conversations that you see are, well, what happens in 30 years' time when the service dies and I can no longer access my digital library, right?
Right.
There's that. Another question, which is, what happens if the company pulls the game from Steam, for example? And certainly this is the first that I'm aware of that really happening. It probably has happened before, and I just don't remember it. So I think it's heartening to see that even though we won't be able to buy the game anymore, we aren't losing access to it.
Right. I wonder, does that mean like you will straight up be able to download the game like forever?
Sure.
Like, do they say that?
I don't know. You know what this reminds me of is for wrestling, sometimes they'll license music for like WrestleMania or whatever, like Triple H will come out to like Master of the Puppets or something, and then when you're like watching the WWE network, he's coming out with some generic rock song instead. Why not just patch Alan Wake and put some generic music in there right now? Well, that's the only thing. What could be easier to do out of everything?
Yeah, I wonder if there's some like very intrinsic reason to the way that like this game was made that keeps them from doing.
Yeah, I've never actually played it.
Make it too expensive.
Shame game. For me, so I don't know why this music is in there. Because even when I read it, why is this music even in Alan Wake?
Yeah, is it in your library? Like you said,
it's not actually. But I also still, I don't know if I'm gonna buy it for $20 right now. Like, when am I gonna play?
I know it was on sale for like $3 over the weekend. I like really regret not buying it, but I think I own it for the Xbox 360 somewhere. So I
find it hard to believe that we are never going to be able to buy Alan Wake again. I do not.
Well, on your deathbed, I'm going to check and see. We're going to see if you play Alan Wake.
Let me put it this way. I find it very hard to believe I'm not going to be able to play Alan Wake again.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, last story. Assassin's Creed Origins has been leaked. This game, we've heard a lot about this game for a while, where it's set in Egypt. It's going to like focus on like smaller sections, like storytelling sections, I guess. I'm sure we're going to hear about this game at E3, but what I want to talk about is how in the hell has there not been an Assassin's Creed Origins before this? Like, that seems like that they
you could have
would
told me that was the name of an Assassin's Creed already. I would have believed you.
Yeah, I would have, like, you could have said, like, oh, I just got done playing Assassin's Creed from Origins from a couple years ago, and I would not have missed a beat. I would have been like, yeah, that's a sentence. Like, totally. Of course you have. Of course you were just playing that game.
So maybe it's because I work with maybe it's because I work with Ubisoft. But I actually thought this had come out like a year and a half ago.
Like
the last one
details.
was Syndicate.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Syndicate and Unity, I think is the one before that. Like, you kind of start mixing those words together, and Origins sounds about right. Yeah.
Then there's that one year where 2 came out, and it was confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it was one of those. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like,
why did this series need to take a break?
Yeah. Okay, but there. How many other games have had the Origins name? I'm trying to think. Like, what is the best game that has the subtitle Origins in it? It's like
oh, there's a lot. Isn't there a Dead or Alive Origins? Did I make that up?
That sounds right.
Let me search for Origins in the Steam store. Dragon Age Origins, that's a good one. Batman Arkham Origins. Oh yeah.
Yes, Arkham Origins. That's the one I'm thinking of. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dragon Age is probably the best one of those.
And
that actually is in Origins.
I don't know about the best Origins game. I know what the best Assassin's Creed game is.
Which one?
I have an opinion on this. Go ahead.
Brotherhood or 4? Because it always comes down to Brotherhood or 4.
Well, he's gonna say 2 probably. I want to hear it.
Shadows of Mordor.
You might not be wrong.
Yeah. I really like Shadows of Mordor. I still might like Brotherhood a little bit more, but I don't know.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking more forward to Shadows of Mordor 2 than Assassin's Creed 9.
Yeah, same here.
I said that as a joke, but that actually might be right. That might be the right number. Now I'm curious.
I don't actually. I think you might be right. Like, it's at least 8. But yeah, I mean, I still like a lot of the Assassin's Creed games. 4 was really good, like you said, and I don't know, a couple of them. Like there were the second one, Rogue, that came out the year where there was 2 of them. That was good as well.
Which was the
Brotherhood's
multiplayer one?
Oh my god, this is literally 9 if we count Rogue.
Oh my god. Okay, so yeah,
Rogue. This is 9.
Unity was the multiplayer one. That's the one that got a lot of flack for not being good, although I really liked it.
I remember really liking that.
Yeah, everyone really hated it though. Okay.
I remember thinking, I distinctly remember when it came out, my thoughts were that it was literally, they had taken the core of what I liked about the first Assassin's Creed game and just turned it into a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Just leaping off rooftops and murdering random strangers. Like, sure.
See, I didn't check that one out, 1, because I was scared by all the negative stuff, and 2, like, French Revolution has just always creeped me out in some weird way that I don't want to, like, experience in a video gamey way. I'm like, oh, the American Revolution, that's fun. Or like, oh, wow, I'm in Rome. It's the Renaissance. And then I'm like, oh,
yeah.
The citizenry has risen up and executed everybody.
Some people are scared of
you do actually
spiders.
Get that discomfort.
Some people have spiders. Other people have French Revolution.
I mean, you just never know. You're going to come around the corner, and there's going to be a French Revolution happening right there. It's just
carrying a guillotine.
When I was in France last year, I was in Paris, was taking a tour. It's like every corner, like, and this is a place where they set up a guillotine, and they murdered like 500 people every 2 minutes because it was super efficient. I was like, golly gee, that's fantastic.
All right, I think we're all done with the news. I think we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to Bob now. Bob, actually, before we do that, though, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on the internet, and if there's anything you want to plug? I don't know if that's the case, but if you have something like that, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
So the best place to find me is on Twitter. I'm Big Bob Gardner. If you ever meet me in person, that name will become very apparent. Add me, follow me, whatever, tweet me, DM me, we can chat, talk games. I will gladly talk to anyone that is listening.
Well, Bob, it was a real pleasure having you on. When we come back, we're going to talk about Microsoft's presence at E3. And I think before that, we're going to do a quick break. But yeah, once again, Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Can I go pee now?
Yeah, you can go pee. We're going to take a break.
Well, look at the list of. I ruined the intro, didn't I?
Yeah, you've ruined everything, Mike. But you know what you don't have to ruin, Mike?
What do I?
No.
Yes, Jeff.
Do you know what you don't have to ruin?
This ad.
Making this ad and making video games. Now, you've already done the former. Now, you want help not doing the latter?
I'll try.
In that case, all you have to do is contact Intel at software.intel.com/gamedev, and they can help you help yourself. Mike, they can help you from yourself, because clearly this is just a whole mess. And we got to do something here. And I think the best thing we can do is to hook you up with Intel and their Intel Game Dev program. How does that sound?
I'm a danger to me and myself and all those around me.
And really, that could be a benefit in making games. I don't know. You know who does know?
Explosive
Intel knows.
personalities.
Yeah, they might be able to say, hey, here's how we can channel all of this destructive personality into making really great video games. They have the resources to help people with innovative ideas, and they want to to help you make your innovative ideas into really great games. Again, that URL is software.intel.com/gamedev. Mike, are you going to check it out?
No, but other people should, because I don't want to be a game dev. I'm not smart enough. I can't do it.
And we're back. Okay, Mike, like we said the last segment, E3 is coming up real soon. Like very soon. 1 month away. And we are going to move on by talking about Microsoft and kind of what they're going to be doing with their presence. We've already talked about a lot of the publishers. I realize we haven't talked about Square Enix, and they do something, but we'll figure out. We'll slot them in later. So Microsoft at E3 this year, we're going to expect a lot of Project Scorpio. That's their next iterative system. And I think they're going to have a lot of games to prove that, but are you starting to get the sensation that maybe they won't? Like, maybe they won't have the games to back this up?
Because the problem is, what games would there be? So to look at this, I kind of just like the Wikipedia of the company, so I can kind of like an idea of like, okay, what kind of like franchises they work on. Like Microsoft just does not have many first-party studios. They have 343 Industries, which is Halo. Are we gonna have Halo 6 already? Would people even really care that much about Halo? I mean, some people would care, but is it gonna really generate that much excitement, especially when Halo 5 seemed to kind of be mostly considered a down point for the series. People weren't as much into it. There's them, then there's Turn 10 Studios, which is Forza. We know another Forza's coming. You have Rare, Sea of Thieves, so they'll show off Sea of Thieves again. That's fine. Then you have the Coalition, which is the Gears of War people, the Coalition, I mean. So that's it for first party. There's Mojang, they make Minecraft, but they have to make that for everybody. So unless some second party people kind of come up, right? And that's where a lot of their quote unquote exclusives come up from, is like weird things like that, or just third party exclusives even. But yeah, it's like what could it possibly be, right? What could possibly be this is the game that it's a big game is coming out and you're going to want it on Scorpio. Like, is the Project Scorpio presentation going to be like, hey, look, here's Call of Duty running on both things, or Destiny 2, or all these games that are going to be on both systems anyways?
Yeah, I mean, it can't just be like something that milquetoast, right? It's got to be something. They have to have something to stand out, and it can't just be something. It feels like it has to be multiple things that jump out and say, "Wow, this is new and different." That really can catch headlines and people's attention and draw people away from what they're going to see from Sony and Nintendo. And don't
forget Sony, and no spoilers alerts or anything, but Sony's going to have Last of Us 2 in a big way at their show, and it's very likely to be a showstopper. What is Microsoft going to counter that with?
Right, and I mean, this is an unverified rumor, but I've been hearing kind of repeatedly from people who seem like they might know that Microsoft might have a disappointing show, and it's just like, what does that even look like? Are they really just going to do Forza and Halo again? Like, they can't, right? They just, in my mind, they can't do that. You can't come up on that stage and be like, we're serious about games. Here's more of the same thing we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. You can't be in the second place position or third place position even. Yeah, come out that weekly. Like, Project Scorpio, that's great and all that, but they had to have, as they were thinking about this, think, hey, we need some some games with this thing, some exclusives or something or another, right? Even if it's like what they did with Tomb Raider, right, where they basically just like had it for a year, so it's
Right.
practically an exclusive. Just something like that. I mean, Tomb Raider was a big game for them last year because it was, something. And then like a lot of the things even recently that like we kind of had hope for, like Recore, that kind of came and wasn't much. So and then they canceled that Dragon game from Platinum Games.
Right.
They don't have that.
Yeah.
We haven't heard about Crackdown 3 in forever. Maybe Crackdown 3 finally has to show up by default now. It's like, okay, Crackdown 3 has to happen for sure.
Crackdown 3 is going to happen. It'll be there. But that's not, like, you're right. Like,
Do people care anymore about Crackdown 3?
I think that some people definitely still care about Crackdown 3, especially if Microsoft can have this as a showcase item for their cloud. I know a lot of people are very skeptical of the cloud still, but I'm one of those people who still believes that if you put it up on stage and show it doing something truly unique and something that can only happen because of cloud computing, that could win a lot of people over. But beyond that, what are the games that they have? Like Crackdown 3 is great, but it's not enough. So I think they're probably going to end up going with a third-party route where they just try to have something on the stage and they say, look how much better it looks on the Scorpio than it does on the old Xbox One. And I just don't know if that doesn't really work in the modern version of E3.
No, they have to have some interesting parties coming in from somewhere, right? Kind of like how like Sony is working with Kojima Productions or something like that. Where you have some guy, I don't know what it is. Like, almost kind of like, except, better, like when they were working with the Final Fantasy guy in like Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon and stuff like that. Something like that. I don't know. Like, what do we know that they're going to have? They're going to have Crackdown 3, and that'll be fine. That's a good thing to have at E3.
Yeah.
So have that for sure. You have Sea of Thieves for sure, and that was there last year. It's neat. I don't know if people are excited, but there was some people who are excited about it, but not a whole lot. Then like, what else? Forza 6, okay, or whatever one they're on now, 7. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I know that Phil Spencer has said that they are going to invest more with first party money. And does that come across as purchasing the rights to third-party exclusives? I don't know. Like, what's out there that they could really go out and grab? It just doesn't seem like, I don't know. I don't know who is going, like, it's not going to be a very affordable thing to do. It's going to cost a lot of money. And in the past, like, they were only willing to spend enough money to get, like, Tomb Raider for a year. And, maybe they do something like that again, but they're not going to do that, like, 3 or 4 times. It's going to be, like, one other game that they do that with. Right. So, I don't know.
The interesting thing here is, because they've always had this problem, right? And it seems like they somehow avoided it for a while, but like now, like first off, Fable's off the table, right? Like that was one of them. That's gone.
Right.
Like Gears of War just happened. Even that didn't seem to set the world on fire. People were kind of a little lukewarm to that. Then even Halo, that already just happened, and again, people were kind of lukewarm to that. What the hell do you do?
I think one of the problems is, like, what games does Microsoft have in their past that you would be like, oh man, there's a chance it could come back at E3, and I really hope to see it there. Like, there's a couple, like Crimson Skies, maybe that's on that.
Would like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I think that would. There's not a ton,
Mech Warrior.
But there are. Yeah, Mech Warrior, I guess. Like, there's a couple of them here and there. But it's not like what Sony and Nintendo have. Like, Nintendo's got like a million I could think of where I'm like, oh yeah, F-Zero and Advanced Wars and a bunch of others, like, where I'm like,
how is the Xbox brand this old and it doesn't have more things to fall on?
Yeah, I think they just knew they did what worked. They did their Halo, they did their Forza, they did their Gears of War, and they stuck with those and never stopped making them. So they're kind of in this thing where, like, they only took the cream of the crop and they just replicated that over and over, and now there's nothing really to draw on from their past.
You know what? It worked out kind of okay for the first few years of this generation cycle, because Sony didn't really have very many interesting first-party games at first either.
No.
Right? It was like,
oh yeah,
it was like Infamous and like Knack. It was like, okay, whatever. But now that like you had the Uncharted come out, you even have this like weird stuff like Nier. You have
Neo,
Persona. Like, yeah, you're starting to see like I used to always people would ask me a lot. And I think you get this question all the time too. They're like, "Hey, which system's better, Xbox One or PlayStation 4?" And I would always tell them they're basically the same. Just I don't know, whatever
And
you want.
they were
Like
until the beginning of this year. They were.
and now all of a sudden people ask me, I was like, get a PlayStation 4 because it has more games. And it has like a lot of really good games that you can't play on the Xbox One.
And it just seems like at the
unless you
beginning
really like racing games, specifically, if you want Forza.
Yeah, and Forza's great. Both Forza games are really awesome games.
Oh, they're very good.
But like at the beginning of this generation, it just seems like Sony's like, hey, the PlayStation 4 is selling better than we realized. Let's invest in making games right this second and get them out as soon as possible. And it turned out that as soon as possible was early 2017. But Microsoft just didn't do that, and they're trying to skate by mostly on they're coasting on what they did with Xbox 360 and saying like people like playing third-party games on our system because of Xbox Live, and that's just not the case anymore. People are okay playing games elsewhere, and it's just really come to bite them in a harsh way. That I hope that they find a way to correct at this year's E3, but I think you and I both not confident that that's going to happen.
No, we're kind of a doom and gloom outcast on us, and I hope they surprise us, but I think they're going to devote a lot of time to the Scorpio because they may not have a lot of games to talk about. And I think you're going to see things like Gears of War 4, like kind of like, to be fair, like they would show Uncharted 4 a lot, right? Like, hey, look how this looks better on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I think it's going to be kind of like that with that game. Like, look, it looks better. Oh, man.
But
hopefully there's an Ori too. I'd like that. Give me Ori. I don't know if that's going to help them.
Yeah, no, you'll be happy, but that's
like
the thing. They just they need to find the pockets of fans that have these attachments to games and serve them exactly what they want. Like it is what Sony did. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, if they like somehow had like an exclusive on like Knights of the Republic 3, that would help. But there's no way Star Wars games going console exclusive anymore.
No, not these days. It'd be way too expensive. But yeah. So I think we're kind of at a loss here. If we were to say something more definitive, I just think it would be Microsoft's in a grave danger of disappointing a lot of people, despite how amazing the Project Scorpio might be. It's like kind of no matter what that system really is. I mean, the one thing they could do is say, hey, it is also $400. So it's way more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's the same price. Like that's going to be the kind of thing that gets people excited, and it is a headline-grabbing thing. But it's going to be the games that people are still going to care about more in the end, and I just don't. I don't know. Doesn't feel like that's going to happen. So okay. So we're going to come back in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about Nintendo and Sony and what they have. We'll do a wrap-up show before E3, and then we're going to be in E3. And Mike, we should start figuring out what we're going to do with the podcast during that week. So me and Mike will talk about that over the next couple of days. And
can't we just do what like our heroes and forebears did and just get drunk by a pool and record? Or is those?
I think that pool's
gone?
actually. I think that pool's actually closed this year. But we can get drunk like in an alley or something. I don't know.
An alley. Mike. Oh, cool.
hey, come be on our show. Come be on our podcast. Where is it? It's in the alley. And we're gonna get all the biggest guests. I feel like there's a couple of people in the industry, like David Jaffe would come talk to people on a podcast in an alley. Like David Jaffe and maybe like I don't know. There's a couple others.
I don't know, man.
Cliffy B.
We said things about Drawn to Life.
That's true, but everyone said things about Drawn to Life at this point. So he's
just got to be stewing somewhere. He's just got to be furious
in an alley.
Yeah, right. He's not taking that leg down. Can't be.
Yeah, no way. Oh God, yeah. I'm sure he's got some choice quotes about
Has he not
critics.
said anything? Critics,
I don't know.
They don't get it.
Yeah, this is for the fans.
Okay. That's always your big, like, I remember when Steven Spielberg said that about Indiana Jones 4, like from an on-set video. I was like, oh no.
And like the Iron Fist actor said that, like, when critics started coming out and really hating the show, he's like, well, it's for the fans. And then finally fans saw it and they're like, no, the show fucking sucks. This is terrible. It's the worst show that Marvel's ever done. But
Oops.
okay. Yeah, whoop, they dropped the ball. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up. Mike, before we go, tell everyone where they can find you.
God, Penny. I'm at home yelling at my loud dog every day is where you can find me. I'm Tokoto on Twitter, TOLKOTO. I also do the Exploding Barrel podcast with my brother. You can check that out on all your podcast things.
She always saves the barks for the end of the show, which is pretty amazing.
Oh, yes, right? It's like she's good for a while. She's like, I think I see something. like, no, don't.
And I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. There's a question mark after my thing. So yeah, I think that's how I'm
I
supposed
threw
to
that
say
in
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm Jeff Grubb, and I'm also on YouTube.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy. YouTube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I do some videos there. Find them, watch them, enjoy them. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, guys. See you then.
Bye.